Welcome back to the Athlete Podcast. So before we dive in tonight, I just wanted to give a shout out. One of our listeners reached out to us on the website, Mr. Joe Kelly. So Joe, thank you so much for sending us some warm wishes here. Joe said, just wanted to thank you. I just want to say your guys' podcast on Ray Ramos was excellent. I used to work with him when he was in Raleigh during recruiting, and he is one of the best leaders I've ever had. Just started following you guys and excited to see all you guys interview. So I thought that was awesome, man. I hate to say that's our first feedback we've had,
Yeah,
but nonetheless, it just kind of warms my heart, man. It's just kind of it makes all the hard work feel better. You know what I mean?
yeah, for sure. The,
Um,
the late nights of recording and getting it done, dude. We have fun now. So
And that episode, that again, we talk about I think almost every single podcast, every episode we mentioned
yeah,
Ray, and all the things that we talked about. And I messaged Ray shortly after I got that message, and I shared it with him. And I just want to say, hey, your influence is still making an impact. So I just want to let you know, like your legend lives on.
yeah. It's funny because like I posted a clip from that podcast on my personal LinkedIn about 2 weeks ago, and like a handful, like my boss's boss liked it, my boss liked it. Like, everyone on the sales team that on my region liked it. So it was an impactful 60 seconds, dude, just by the
Yeah.
small clip. So
Yep. Absolutely.
I would
And
recommend listening to the full thing if you have the time.
it's worth it. I think I've listened to it at least 3 or 4 times just to kind of, and I pick up something every single time, something that Ray said, something that you said. And it just, I feel like we had lightning in a bottle in that episode.
Yeah.
So before we even realized it. So, well, to Joe and to all our listeners, we're going to do our best to see if we can get some more guests back on. I know we're all kind of just finding things to talk about here until the NFL season kicks back off, and then we can really get into some good content. And I also want to invite some of the guests we've had on back on, like the coaches and also some new guests that we haven't had on yet, just to get their take. Some things that are happening.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that so we're going to dive back into our greatest athlete tournament bracket tonight. We're going to talk about LeBron James and Jerry Rice. And the thing is, one of the reasons why we wanted to do this so bad is because it's hard to find content on, for instance, Jerry Rice, kind of leading up to this. Obviously we kind of relied on our AI analysis and whatnot, but, I also wanted to do my own organic research. And it's hard. You get everything about their accolades and their stats and how great of a player they were, but it's hard to find
Yeah.
the content. What was their character like?
Yeah.
What are they, were they actually a good leader? like it's hard to find those things. So, I'm hoping, kind of our unofficial mission statement kind of going into this NFL season is let's provide a take that you're not used to seeing. This is the through the lens of the character, through the lens of do they lead by example?
Yeah.
How well, morally are they, just are they likable? Are they a good person? Things like that. So, because you don't really see that too much. And sometimes what you hear in the media may not always be the best picture, best word picture of that person. So, without further ado, let's get back into our tournament. Now, just as a quick recap, we've covered 2 matchups so far in the Eisenhower region. We've covered Michael Jordan versus Mia Hamm, and we saw a major upset with Mia Hamm advancing on. Then we talked about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar against Derek Jeter. And Derek Jeter was able to take out Kareem. So Mia Hamm and Derek Jeter have moved on. That leads us to our matchup: LeBron James, ranked number 3 in our bracket, versus Jerry Rice, ranked number 6. Now, I guess a good place to start with would be LeBron James. Now, as we're recording this, latest news: LeBron has put in his notice that he intends to be an unrestricted free agent coming into this upcoming NBA season. He will not be with the Lakers next year. Not with his son. He's going to be venturing out to a new team. And this is not for financial gain. This is happiness.
I used to be, so I was the whole debate. I know we're talking about LeBron James and Jerry Rice, but I was a huge LeBron guy. So like I had his jersey when I was in the third and fourth grade. He had the coolest shoes of all time in that time span. Like I think it was his first or second LeBron signature shoe by Nike that I always wanted. And then he also too had LeBron's Lightning Lemonade, the chewing gum. A lot of people forget
Okay.
about that. I
I've
was a
never
huge
heard of that.
yeah, dude. It's by like the Bubblicious chew, like the most sugary gum. Basically, you have a whole layer of sugar over your teeth after you're done chewing it. And but regardless, I was a huge LeBron fan. And then he left Cleveland. Not that I have any ties to Cleveland at all, but I think it was just more so he is his hometown. They drafted him, and then he leaves to go run what just the elite squad in Miami, and then from there it just then he goes. I think from I really lost it when that happened. I'm like, man, this kind of sucks. Like, because it was cool to see him. He was, high school, goes straight to Cleveland, hometown, leaves there, goes to Miami, and I'm like, damn, dude, like he just. It seemed like it just got up and left. Goes back to Cleveland, I believe so. Wins in Cleveland, and then just gets up and leaves to go to the Lakers. I'm like, dude, what are we doing? Like I just feel like I hope with this last set of free agency, I hope he goes somewhere. I think, like, I mean, I guess for happiness. I mean, the man's done it all, like from a statistic standpoint and points, but like, I don't know. I was a huge LeBron fan, and now I'm going on a tangent, and I shouldn't but
No, no, man. It's so I remember in high school. Well, let me say that again. I remember when he was in high school. Like I remember his face being on the cover of ESPN magazine. Like I vividly,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And it really was exciting. There's something to be said about these players who spend their entire careers with one team, like the Derek Jeters, Cal Ripken. I got them, softly because they're right here on my wall. But I see them every day. But so this jumping around, I don't know, man. There's just something about it. It just kind of, I don't want to say it tarnishes the legacy a little bit, but it's also kind of, I guess it's just cooler when you've just been with the team forever. And it would be cool. Would it have been cooler had he just stayed with Cleveland, and just was just the best it's ever has ever reached the
Dude,
Cavaliers and
I would say so. Like I'm like I would say yeah. Like I think that'd be way cooler, right? I know as an Eagles fan, I always bring somehow Philly into it. I know Jalen Hurts is not going to retire an Eagle. Like it's just not the state of the NFL. Like it's not going to happen. Like
right.
I said it when he went to the Super Bowl the first time and lost. I said it when he won the Super Bowl. I love Jalen Hurts. I'm a huge supporter, but he's not going to be an Eagle for his whole career. It's just the state of professional sports. But I think when you look at, guys that have stayed on, there's plenty of athletes that are big time players, especially in the NBA, that have just stayed on teams their whole career because they refuse to leave. And I think it goes like, I'm not saying that he's not loyal or he is, but I think when you look at the guys that do that, these are also the guys, that they just have, there's a different mentality, it seems like. And I think that's kind of what frustrates me about it because LeBron hits all those points where he's like the hardest worker on the rim, the best player on the court, shows up every single day. Like you hear about how much of a hard worker he is, but then it's like, why are you bound to like just why do you want to bounce around to another team, man? Just water the grass where you're at. Make your
Yeah.
just leave your legacy where you're at. I just think it would have been so cool if he would have stayed at Cleveland his entire career.
And who knows? Obviously, at the end of the day, we know the story and we know what happens. But there's just something about first of all, it has a share of challenges. You go, we always bring up the NIL and the college football, because I think that's the best way to kind of compare this to. And a lot of players are jumping ship after the season because they want to go for the bigger, better deal, right? And I think it's hard to believe when some athletes like, no, I'm not doing this for money. Okay, well then, what are you doing it for? Because,
It's
sorry,
cool.
your
A cool
son
uniform.
is on the team. like,
Yeah.
think
Like,
about the memories that's creating. It's like, okay, and they did have to have that experience this past season. Yeah, but I guess then you go to a new team, okay, and with a new coach. How are you going to mesh with the coach? That team has already kind of cemented the leaders from the previous season. Okay, how are you going to mesh with these leaders? Are you going to have a leadership presence as soon as you get there? Is this going to be an ego battle? Is this going to be, so there's just a lot of work versus you've already kind of put in the work and you're laying your roots and you're kind of setting the standards for this team, and then you get to run. I read in these books all the time about these, some of the best leaders were loyal to the team and they just stayed with that team, for forever because they couldn't imagine having their jersey hung up in another arena other than their own. And that's the thing. It's like, where is he? Who's going to retire his jersey? That'd be the interesting question.
well, so there's two like takes I have for that, right? Like maybe he shocks the world and goes back to Cleveland, retires in Cleveland, right?
That would be great. Like that would
Maybe,
be a great little storybook
maybe,
ending.
yeah, maybe that happens. That's how the storybook goes. Also, too, I think yes, the memories of him playing with Bronny are very important, but something that I think could not be getting enough attention is he realized he has played in the league for so long, and he has maybe realized my son has to carve his own path now.
I was just
I,
thinking about
I
that.
cannot stay
I knew
here.
you were going to say that too, man.
Yeah, like because if
That's a great
I
point.
stay here, everyone's always going to say Bronny's only on this team because I'm on the team. And a lot of people they'll maybe continue to say that he never should have got drafted. Whatever your opinion is on that, you own if that's his reasoning, which it very well could be, then that is the reason I can respect it. But like, you know what, dude, I can respect that.
Right.
I
Yeah,
can
that's a,
absolutely
that's a great
respect
point. Yeah, I want. You know what, man? Now I feel bad for everything I've said. It's
that.
like
No,
that
I mean
because that to me. It's like that's a good leadership move.
it's a I think
Yeah.
it's a great move, man. Like I think at some point you have to do it. It's like
Yep.
when when you move out of your parents' house for the first time. It's like, dude, if we keep
Yeah.
letting him sleep here, eat our food, and do whatever, he's never going to grow.
Absolutely.
Like this dude's got to go to practice every single day because there's still that presence in the locker room. LeBron James is my dad, and you'd be crazy if you say there's not.
Yep. And it's kind of like, hey, man, give your keys to your 16-year-old, and you gotta let him drive, man. Like you can't be next to him, paving the way all the time. They have to kind of cut. They have to make their own path and then cut their own trail there. So yeah, listen, however you want to cut it and however you want to look at this thing,
Yeah.
let's break down arguably one of the greatest basketball players of all time. So here's the breakdown. Some of the positives from LeBron. He had elite tactical empowerment. LeBron doesn't just demand excellence, he orchestrates it. He knows every single teammate's favorite shooting pockets, mechanical strengths, defensive tendencies, putting them in exact positions to maximize their statistics and their careers. He had masterful on-field. He was a masterful on-field, on-court chess player, possessing a legendary near I don't even know how to say this word. I don't know what AI is smoking on this one. Possessing legendary direction on defense and unmatched passing vision provide a massive psychological safety net for his squad. I don't even have a comment on that. I'm not sure where we're going with this.
Yeah.
Unprecedented longevity. Yeah, I agree with that. And standard. Entering his third decade in the NBA. LeBron's daily investment in his body, nutrition, biometrics, recovery is the absolute blueprint for professional durability, forcing young players to rethink what prime physical condition looks like. Yeah, I think without a doubt, and I think this is something because you always get the comparisons between LeBron and Jordan, right? I think without a doubt, LeBron James, just in his ability and again the longevity, which was much longer than Jordan's, and just being in peak physical shape, a specimen athletically. Just some of the moves he's been able to make over the years, some of the highlight reel plays. I mean, it's definitely he's in a league of their own in terms of physical side, and just the height, the strength, the athleticism again. Yeah, that is unprecedented. I think without a doubt, if he's not the best player of all time, certainly maybe the most athletic of all time. I don't know. That's maybe my cold take on that.
I would say one of the most athletics, and I would definitely say he's hands down one of the most confident players I've ever watched. Like when I was like it's when they played the Celtics in 2013, that NBA Finals, and he said he wanted the ball on that final shot. Like, and he went into that timeout saying, "Get me the ball." I think that speaks. He's one of the most confident, one of the most that you can depend on him. You know, so I think and I'm not an NBA fan, but as a leader or a coach, it's like what more that those are two strong traits that you can ask for.
You know,
Dependable.
what is the famous quote in the replacements? Winners always want the ball when the game's on the line, right?
Yeah,
It's same thing for leaders. It's like just being able to take the team on your back and having the confidence that I'm going to do this, knowing that there's a risk that this could be epic failure and you could be posterized as losing the game for
dude,
the
and
team.
that's where I was going to go, and like that's where I was going to go with that. Like you got to respect him because at the end of the day, he misses that shot. ESPN destroys him.
Yep.
Is
And
Ron?
he's already got enormous pressure on his back already about
Yeah,
the Jordan versus LeBron. I mean, that honestly, I think if you were to simplify and break down what has been the biggest debate since 2000, it has been
it's Jordan LeBron.
LeBron versus MJ for the
Yeah,
greatest of all time, right? So there's so much pressure on his back to perform and to win titles. I think that's one of the things I think you look back on LeBron. If there is a weakness, it's the inconsistency in the playoffs. It's the time frame between championships, whereas Jordan's was back to back to back. I mean, just that's why I think a lot of times when you're doing that comparison, you're thinking about that. It was the consistency and the excellence that LeBron had, or excuse me, Jordan had. But there was also the cast of characters that surrounded MJ versus the cast of characters surrounding LeBron. You could arguably say, hey, the Heat were great. LeBron was part of that team. They also had D Wade, Chris Bosh. It was that power three,
yeah.
right? So could LeBron have done that just by himself? It'd be, I don't know. Jury will be out on that one. But let's go into some of the negatives, shall we? Passive aggressive accountability. Unlike Jordan, who confronted teammates directly and explosively, and we covered that in the
Yeah,
first
okay.
episode when we analyzed Jordan's leadership. LeBron has historically used indirect methods to apply pressure, such as subtweets, cryptic media comments, visible on-court body language, shrugging, showing transitions back on defense when frustrated. So, this passive aggressive isn't going to be helpful for anybody. I think when you're talking about leading by example, I'm going to paraphrase this, but somebody was saying that 95% of leadership is your body language. It's what you're
Dude,
showing.
that's like, oh my gosh, man. That was like that is one of my biggest pet peeves. Like that just like almost woke me up when you say that. I hate that. I like if I was a coach, that would be my like if I coached football or a sport, that would be my biggest pet peeve is body language. If you don't want to be here, go. Because I can tell that you don't want to be here by the way you just your body language. Get off the field, get off the court, go home, don't come back, try again another day. Like I that is one of my biggest pet peeves. It wasn't the military too. It's like I just I can't stand that. It's just a pet peeve of mine.
Yep, and I've been around my fair share of athletes who just expressing frustrations on and off the field. I wasn't even. I was thinking about this when I was getting ready to talk about this because when I was at NC State, we had a couple players, but there's one. I'm not going to mention any names, but there's one player that came in. He was this hot shot from out of high school, 5-star athlete. He played tight end, but he gained a lot of weight in the off season for some reason. I don't know why. He also like hurt his knee somehow. So going into camp, he was 60 pounds overweight,
That's
had a bum knee, and he still had this ego and he still had this body language. And it was just being around them. And it was just like, that's not a future leader and who is just because everything that he did, first of all, he thought he was the world's greatest tight end in that position at that age, whatever the case may be. It's like, dude, you're not even on the field. You're still doing training, and I'd argue because you had these knee problems because you gained so much weight in the off season. It's like, you're not
yeah,
taking your job serious. You're not taking your future serious. But every little thing that we did, whether it was the stretching, and anybody who's ever played college ball, there's going to be flexibility is key. I hated it back in the day, but it came down to, are you stretching before practice? Are you stretching after practice? Are you doing all these different things? And every little thing that we did, he was just constantly just complaining about this. Had a smug face on him. And that's not motivating anybody. That's the negative. That's the toxicity. That's poisoning the well. So,
so
especially,
I have a question with that because so how does a D1 coach handle that? How do you so because in my thought process, right? I'm like, dude, you're a high schooler. Wait, ESPN ranked you a 5-star recruit. Okay, congrats. No one cares. There's 100 of you in you know tight end might be a little bit more slim. There's 50 of you across the nation. Like, I don't care. Like, is that the attitude that it like? Because I feel like that's the attitude that not that you should not, but like if you have a 5-star recruit that's already acting like that, I would imagine it was just, and he got it from all different
yeah.
angles and staff.
Well, for one thing, we had that particular season. This is fall of 2008. We had a couple tight ends who were running that were over top of him in the depth chart. I'd say he's probably like third or fourth string at this point.
Yeah,
And it was a competition to see who was going to win out. And we knew he wasn't going to be in the running, but George Bryan, who I'm going to say his name because honestly, I love George. He was a fantastic player, fantastic, great personality. We discovered George, and George had a blowout season like that year, and we saw it in camp. Like he was big, physical, had great hands. So I think going into this and dealing with them, it was kind of like, hey, we saw the tape, we know he's got the skill, but he ain't gonna be playing anytime soon because George was like a redshirt sophomore. So like
yeah. So
they
it's like,
had, yeah. So I think for to answer your question, I think it was kind of like, well, they had a good thing going, so I think they weren't really as critical over that. Um, and so Tom O'Brien was the coach at that point, and yeah, listen, I think he was a good coach. I think he could have been a lot more personable with his players, and especially nowadays, you won't see the old school Tom O'Brien's as much anymore. I think if he paid a little more attention, I guess the best way to describe this is like I don't think he cared as much. He knew they got
yeah,
a good pick, and they're kind of like, I don't know what kind of shape he's in right now, but I think we can develop him, and he'll have some time. And in the meantime, we got this stud who's going to be an All-American. Like, so I'm not really worried about it too much. But
right,
now, if you look at coaches nowadays who are evaluating, you look at Signetti, for example. Some of the things he talks about all the time is, can this player meet the standard? Like, can he meet the standard? And I'm not going to bring him on, whether it's through the NIL or not, unless they're going to be a solid fit in our system, like, and what we're trying to do. If they're going to
right,
hold that up, I don't want them. Like, that's just, and they're not going to thrive here. I want somebody who could thrive. I want somebody that's going to benefit our culture. So they're not going to tolerate that. And they're not only just going to be interviewing the player, they're going to be interviewing the parents, and they're going to be interviewing former teammates and the coach and anybody who can provide transparent and real information on this player so that they get the best take on them they possibly can, I think you would discover these character flaws pretty quickly
Yeah,
nowadays.
I think that's going to be. I don't want to go off the rails about NIL, but I think that's going to be the savior with the transfer portal is coaches just being transparent with other coaches. Because if coaches hate it as much as they say they do, then that would be my first step is the transparency between other coaches. Like, all
And
right, you
yep,
know,
absolutely. And to piggyback off, you're not going off the rails here. I'm going to get back to LeBron here in just a second, but a salary cap in college football. Think about
yeah,
this, for example, right? Think about this. All right, well, we only have like, 4 million in the cap right now. We can either go for the 5-star quarterback or we can get two 5-star receivers or something. You know what I mean? Like I think it's just going to even the playing field. And here comes recruiting back again because then all of a
it's
sudden
gonna, yeah, dude, it's gonna happen. It
it's only a
has
matter
to
of time.
happen. It's just a matter of time. Like you see, didn't Miami's head coach just forfeit his salary for NIL?
It's amazing.
Like, yeah, I like went on Instagram. I saw that.
That is,
Am I
and
living in alternative
Miami's
universe right now?
yeah, Miami is going
Like,
to be a stud again this year, and it's almost kind of like Miami's just on even though they're in the ACC, it's like they're just on such a different playing field. But it's amazing. We're going to start seeing, there's colleges out there that are looking into so many different ways to earn more money and getting donations and through their clubs and whatnot. Everything from looking to see if they can get discounts on travel. All this where they can put money back in this NIL pool. I mean, it's just absolute craziness. But back to LeBron.
yeah,
LeBron, the LeBron GM pressure shadow. Because of his massive organizational influence, teams built around him frequently trade away young assets for win now veterans. This creates a perpetual high stress under the microscope environment where role players constantly feel disposable if the team slumps. So this is interesting because imagine when LeBron was on the Heat and then he goes back to Cleveland, right? I think he went to Cleveland after from the Heat, right? I think that was how
yeah. Let me look
you
that up.
mentioned.
Hold on. I'm like positive. I just want to make sure that that's like you look him up and it's like 17 different articles. It's yeah, Cleveland, Miami, Cleveland, Lakers.
Okay.
I think he's actually, believe it or not, he has. No, he didn't win. He's won on every team he's been on, but he didn't win his first finals, his first go around in Cleveland from 4 to 10.
I don't think when I'm reading this, I don't think this is necessarily a character flaw. I think this is more or less just it's almost like here's an example. Bringing on if you were to bring on Messi from Barcelona over to the Miami team in MLS. Now, I'm not a huge soccer fan, but the whole point is, it's like I don't think it's a character flaw with LeBron, but I think just because of his massive
It's the
following,
aura.
the aura, the
Yeah.
expectations, you're creating a lot of pressure on the GM. That's like, oh shoot, well,
Dude, you're going to have ESPN up everywhere. You're going to have Yahoo Sport. Any news outlet for sports that you can think of is going to be all in on your organization. And it just causes like so someone said this quote the other day, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm going to screw it up, but like sometimes when you want to do something for the greater good, it has a lot of negative effects that you're not paying attention to. And yeah, like LeBron's a great athlete. People would love to have him because cities want to win championships, but you're not seeing the 17 other things that bringing him in is going to negatively affect due to the current state of sports media and entertainment. And I think that's exactly what that is back to the GM point where like you're just under a microscope. You're already under a microscope and now you're really under a microscope. And now like also too young players. do they have a legitimate like, yes, you're going to be learning from one of the best basketball players of all time. I've always thought that too is very interesting. Like, how do you coach this dude? Is he coachable? You know what I mean? Like, is he
Yeah.
like, do you, how does he receive coaching? Like, is that on there? Because you're talking about a guy who's played in the league longer than some of the coaches have been coaching. So it's like, this is also too, as a GM, this is also another negative effect that you could have in an organization. It's like, yeah, I would love to sign LeBron. We had the money to, but he's been playing in the league longer than my coach has been alive. I don't know if there's any coach in the NBA that would be a scenario, but in, just saying like, hypothetically, like it could be very
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. I think, especially in his earlier days, I think you get a much more coachable version of LeBron.
For
I
sure.
think nowadays, we just the, the success record, just everything that he is. He's not a young guy anymore. I think I'm speculating here, so certainly don't quote me on this one here, but I think, I mean, first of all, I don't think we're talking about a bad character whatsoever. I think he was a heck of a lot more coachable than Jordan was, I think.
I would agree with that. And I think that goes into like when you're talking about the GOAT, I think a lot of you have this like 50-50 debate of who is better, but like I do side with LeBron. I'm team LeBron.
I mean,
I'm a huge MJ fan, but I just think when you look at the numbers, like, but then the debate goes into, and I don't want to go into the debate, but like, well, Jordan's never lost the finals, and that is a hell of an argument. So, like,
and just here's my opinion on this. Because whether it's talking about Tom Brady versus Peyton, or any Gretzky versus any of the up and coming hockey players, we're talking about different eras. Okay, it's like you can't. No scientist would get behind a study on this, because it's like they're playing. It'd be one thing if you're playing against the same exact players as LeBron was playing against the same teams, the same players as Jordan, and you were able to replicate it and make it perfect, and then examine them. Then you could finally have a conclusion there. But you're not going to have that.
yeah,
This
and
is
it
a
also
different game.
I
Yeah,
was having the conversation with my buddy who's a Cowboys fan, and he absolutely can't, obviously hates the Eagles. He hates Jalen Hurts. And you hear the debate all the time: is Jalen Hurts the top 10 quarterback? Is he not? In my opinion, I think he is, because you're rating him based off of his success. But then this is where people interject in the argument, and then they start rating him based off of the individual. So like his quarterback mechanics, how he does, reads coverage, where does he do check down calls, all this, the quarterback mechanics and quarterback fundamentals. Then okay, now you're rating him based off of the sole individual. And the rating change starts when you're rating someone as their success, which you don't have any success if you don't have a team. So the argument of, okay, he's not a good quarterback. Well, he's been to two Super Bowls, been to five NFL playoffs, two Super Bowls, and won one of them. So I could argue he's a great quarterback. He's better than,
yeah,
how many quarterbacks in the last 6 years. But I think that's where it gets frustrating in these debates, because are we debating the individual, or are we debating the success? And the Jordan debate is, well, he's never lost the finals. He's been, the defensive player of the year, whatever,
right.
all of the Jordan debates, that is very much him and team success. But when you're debating LeBron as a soul, his statistics on paper, he's better,
Yeah, yeah.
in my opinion.
And I think for me, it's like I'm just gonna stay in this. I think they're both damn
They're
good.
both, yeah, yeah.
Like,
That's such a, that's
you
such
know what I
a,
mean?
I love it,
I'm
dude.
just, hey, you know what? They're up there.
They're up there.
They are up there for sure. But yeah, but nonetheless, and just to kind of put a button on that last point, but it definitely does creates a pressure for coaches, creates a
Yeah.
pressure. You bring in a talent like this, and just a caliber, not only from the financial standpoint, but I mean, any GM would love to have them and have LeBron because, I mean, look at jersey sales. Look at just, there's so many good things. But with that comes the pressure and a lot of pressure for young guys, young players in the team who have been looking up to LeBron, since they were in grade school, which is crazy to think about,
Yeah, man.
and being able to play with him. I think there's also a great opportunity for LeBron to really make a difference. And there's plenty of stories out there. I know you had before we get into the professionalism breakdown, which is next, didn't you have a story about LeBron that could just, and I think it'll provide a little color here, but
So this story always just is, it's just imprinted in my brain, unfortunately. But I think it was when they were in the Olympics. A young kid ran up to him when he was walking into a nightclub and to like get his autograph. And he looks at the young kid and it's like very sternly goes, "Don't do that." Doesn't sign anything, doesn't take a photo with him, just walks away. I think at the end of the day, I think from a consumer standpoint, professional athletes are forgetting the fact that like what comes, you make millions of dollars. It comes with a price. When you have a kid, because I was that kid one point. When I met Brian Dawkins, it was the greatest day of my life for like 10 years. He was filming a commercial. My aunt worked for Comcast in Philly, and she was like, "Hey, wear an Eagles jersey, bring him here, take off school today." I walk in and it's freaking Brian Dawkins, a legendary Eagles safety. Imagine, I still remember what he was eating. He was eating McDonald's, and I was like, "He eats McDonald's." Now looking back, and I'm like, "Dude, professional, they eat whatever they want." But
hey, by the way, did you know that South Carolina, they have I want to say, I heard this, that South Carolina's football team has a McDonald's in the locker room.
we need
Isn't that insane?
we need to figure that out if that's accurate. That's alarming too. Like there's a lot of things.
I, and
Did,
it goes, and I know we're going off on the rails again, but like Chad Ochocinco,
yeah.
would always big on, he would eat McDonald's all the time.
Well,
There's,
and it goes into it, but like me, you know, being able, like him, the fact that I'm able to remember what he was eating,
yeah,
it's changed my life for like 10 years, man.
yeah.
I still like, I'll visit my father in Florida and I'll look for the disposable camera with the picture that's on it because I know it went somewhere and we just never got the pic. I still have his ball signed from that day.
Oh, and you
And
can't find the picture.
I can't find the picture because I want to
Oh
get it put in
man.
a glass box and I want to have. I was in the sixth grade, dude. I didn't even know it was Brian Dawkins was going to be there. I had a B Doc jersey, the ODE green one, and I was wearing it. Dude, I teared up. He was like, when you talk about any kid from Philly, Brian
Yeah,
Dawkins was like your hero. He
that
crawled
was the
out
guy. Yeah,
like,
seeing
but
him
I
come crawling out of that tunnel, man.
but I
Yeah.
think like professional athletes in this new, like the new generation. Yeah, LeBron's older, but like they just forget, dude. And like, yeah, the consumer forgets that they are people too, and they want their space. But like, you gotta like you probably changed that kid's life. He'll never watch basketball the same way, and that has always stuck with me. I'm like, why would you do that?
And
Like,
I mean, it's almost kind of like, okay, and I would even say college is probably getting more wrapped into this too. But let's break it down to really what it is. It's like, dude, at the end of the day, LeBron, you're playing in a show. It's a show.
it's a
It's
show,
a
dude.
show for the consumer. That's
It's
all
all
it
it is.
is.
It's
I
entertainment.
mean, it's not like you're fighting for world peace. It's not like you're fighting a
It's
war
literally
out
in
there.
the title: sports and live entertainment. That's
It's
literally
entertainment. And so the consumer is the priority all the time.
all the
And
time.
and the moment you forget that, yeah, that's when you enter that stage, you enter that platform, everything is for the consumer. You are serving them. Like it's not, yeah, you're playing, yeah, okay, well, you're playing for the city of Cleveland. You're playing for the U.S. Okay, in the Olympic game. Okay, nonetheless, it's still a show. It's a
Still a show, man.
show. So
Still a
anyway,
show. I hope one day to put a cap on that story. I hope one day LeBron James finds out who that dude was, reaches out to him, and how can I make this right? Like you see at the baseball stadiums, where like the little kid gets robbed of the ball by some like old chick or old dude.
Hmm.
They're like,
Yeah.
my ball. And then like the stadium flies him out, gives him box seats. He meets all the players. And shit. Like, I hope that LeBron, if you for whatever reason ever see this, I hope that you do that. And if you don't do that, I hope that next time a kid runs up to you, you're just, and I'm sure he has been in the past.
He seems like he'd be the guy that would do that
Yeah.
because where there's that story, there's tons of other stories where he's giving sleeves to kids.
Dude,
He's
he's
doing
opened up
so many
school.
things.
He's
Like,
done
yeah. So but nonetheless, leadership is a 24/7 gig. It is
24/7.
consistency. It's like you don't
Every
get
no
to
one's
have a bad day ever, even if you're
Yep.
feeling bad, you're sick, your dog got ran over, whatever the case may be, you got to be on.
Yep.
All right, let's dive into the professionalism. So, like we analyzed Derek Jeter, Jordan, Mia Hamm, and Kareem. We're looking at the 12 professionalism traits. Number one, justice. He scored an 8 out of 10. Okay. And the reason is because he was highly egalitarian in how he shares the ball and elevates role players, turning guys like Matthew Dellavedova or J.R. Smith into championship heroes. However, his roster influence means organizational justice can skew heavily towards players represented by his inner circle. Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's fair. I mean, at the end of the day, it's almost kind of like, some leaders I'm sure you probably saw this in the military too, where some leaders move over. They want to be with the guys that they know, like coaches. Here's another great example. Coach gets brought onto the big gig. He's going to bring his buddies with him. If he's smart, he's bringing the buddies that are best for the job. He's not just bringing Joe Schmo over here just because it's his best friend since high school. They got to be able to perform. So for me, it's like I'm not harming on a guy or harping on somebody who just wants to continuously surround themselves with their inner circle, their social sphere of players that they enjoy working with, as long as they can perform the job. So I think that's a fair score in terms of justice. And justice is all about fairness, just being fair. So when you're a leader, you give equal treatment to all of your direct reports, all your subordinates. That's really what we're trying to do. It's like if you're going to be hard on this guy about this, you better be hard on another guy for the same thing. That's what we're talking about when we think about justice. Judgment, 10 out of 10. Dependability, 10 out of 10. An
Yeah.
unbelievable anchor. He has carried flawed rosters to 10 NBA finals, routinely leading the league in minutes played. When the postseason arrives, LeBron consistently delivers historically dominant, high-efficiency performances. However, he hasn't won them all. Okay, so we talked about that, and that's one of his biggest, I guess, if you want to call it a flaw, it's like he hasn't been consistently as successful as Jordan, I guess is the best way to put that.
He's in the 10 NBA finals.
10 NBA finals.
He's won
How many
4.
has he had? How many has he actually won? Was it 4?
He's won 4.
Okay.
Well, that's where the debate falls short, where it's like Jordan's 6-0, LeBron's 4-6.
Yeah.
He's
Okay.
never lost. I didn't realize he's been to 10 finals. That's a lot. That is a ton of finals.
And again, disclaimer, this is all based on AI, so that could be completely flawed. So, but nonetheless, okay. Dependability, 10 out of 10. Initiative, 10 out of 10. Highly proactive. LeBron initiates everything from off-season mini camps in Las Vegas to structural changes in how his team runs their half-court offenses. He doesn't wait for a coaching staff to set the agenda. He dictates it. 10 out of 10 may be a little bit rough, a little skewed on that one, only just because that may be a coachability issue. And maybe the coach, if I was a coach of LeBron, I mean, this is complete, utter speculation here, but if you're a young coach, fresh out of the gate, this is your first NBA team, hell yeah, let LeBron run it. Hey, let's go. Because honestly, you've seen more ball than I have. Let's see, how can I support you? If you want to run the show, let me delegate. Decentralized command. Let me let you run it, and I'll step in if there's friction. Okay, if there's any players that have an issue, I'll step in. If it's not working, I'll step in, and you have to give me the flexibility and the respect to be able to do that. But a guy like LeBron, absolutely. Now, having said that, LeBron shouldn't just be coming in and be like, "This is my team, coach." I don't think that's a great way to go about doing things. I think if you want to be able to lead up the chain of command, it needs to be, hey, coach, I got some ideas. You walk me through, help me understand how you want how you plan to run the team. Let me know how I can support. I've got some ideas. I've got some things that worked out in teams that I played with in the past. But this is your show. But let me know what I can do to support. I think that's kind of what we should be seeing. It shouldn't just be
Yeah.
coming in. This ego shouldn't be just taking the run just because you've had some success. Absolutely. But don't just assume this is just going to be your team and you're going to run everything. And so that's my take on that. Anything else add on that?
No, it's been back to the finals appearances. It's been 10.
It has been 10. Okay.
Yeah, so
Wow.
I would assume this is where the debate gets pretty gnarly between him and Jordan, but 2007 they were swept by the San Antonio Spurs when he was in Cleveland. Um 2000 this is so it's not in like order of where he's been asked. It's been by years. Um or teams. So 2007 they were swept by San Antonio. 2015 they lost to the Golden State Warriors. That was a great team though. 2016 defeated Golden State in Game 7. 2017 they lost to the Golden State Warriors. 18 they were swept by the Golden State Warriors. In 2011, when he was at the Heat, they lost to the Mavericks. 12, they defeated the Thunder. 13, defeated the San Antonio Spurs. 14, lost to San Antonio. And then 2020 at the Lakers, they defeated the Heat. So that's a lot of finals. I mean, it's impressive,
It
but
really is. It
you
really
know,
is. Um,
especially when you view the teams that he lost to in that era, they're just so dominant.
yeah,
Like,
Tim Duncan. I mean, we're going to cover him here in just a short while. But yeah, nonetheless, he's there.
yeah,
Without a doubt, like I said, I mean, I love that he's organizing things. He's taking opportunities. That's one of the things we talk about with the football teams we work with all the time. It's because teams will have dead periods where coaches aren't allowed to run structured practices during certain times. But I'll tell the leaders, doesn't mean that you guys can't organize a little thing on the side.
yeah,
Why don't you? Hey, you're the one of the leaders in the offensive line. Get your offensive lineman out there. Start working on pass blocking. Start just kind of run through some plays. Do some mental reps. It's those little things that you can be doing in the off season just to get you that much better. And by the way, building relationships with those guys. Hey guys, let me tell you something. I know it's hot as hell outside right now, and this is going to suck, but can you just work with me? Give me 10 minutes. Just give me
yeah,
10 minutes. And then you guys are off on your way. But I think this is good for us. And then we can go back I can go back to coach, say, hey, coach, we've been working on this. I know coach can only do so much right now. Let's do a solid for coach. All right. And let's also do a solid for us. So just some little things like that. Just taking the initiative. Decisiveness, 9 out of 10. He was lethal and calculated. On the court, he executes passes or drives. And again, I say this every single time. Unfortunately, AI is going to lead more towards game performance instead of what's happening on,
yeah,
we're
right.
not going to see what decisions he made. I think decisiveness, 9 out of 10. I mean, most of the time he's deciding, I'm going to take the shot. Give me the ball to me, those kinds of things. But, again, decisiveness is, are you making quick decisions? Are you making calculated decisions? Are you, not being hostage to the situation? You're actually, hey, taking charge, and if you not always going to make the best decision. That's why we debrief. But nonetheless, 9 out of 10 on decisiveness. Tact, 7 out of 10. So that might be his lowest score. Let's see what they had to say. LeBron is fundamentally a builder and a connector who prefers positive reinforcement. However, his tact drops when handling prolonged organizational stagnation, choosing passive-aggressive media cues over direct locker room confrontation. And I will say this much. We talked recently in a podcast about A.J. Brown airing out dirty laundry. Okay. And nobody knows better at this point than me how important it is. But this goes for anybody. It's the last thing you want to hear is somebody's talking about you behind your back, or they're going to a third party when they should just be talking to you. Is as a leader or as anybody that is a part of a team, you got a problem with somebody, talk to them one-on-one. It is going to be uncomfortable. and it's not going to be the most fun conversation you've ever had. Okay, let's just face the fact. But have the courage to do that, because guess what? Not only can you help solve the problem, you are going to also build respect in whoever you have this conversation with, because they're going to be like, well, they could have gone in the media. Well, they could have just went right to the coach and said so and so is a problem, but they had enough respect in me to come talk to me. And because of that, I'm going to listen to them, and I'm going to take, I'm going to take their words and kind of, and give my take on it. But for the most part, it's going to be positive, especially if you come at it from like not default aggressive. You're coming at it as, hey man, can I just share something with you? This is on my heart right now. I got a problem with this. How can we work together on this one? How can we work around this? Because I'm struggling with this, and it's impacting my game, and I know it's probably impacting yours. Let's be better teammates for each other. Let's do this, this, and this. You're just going to earn so much more respect. Stop going to everybody else except the source. Go to the
Yeah.
source. So 7 out of 10 for tact. Integrity, 9 out of 10. Enthusiasm, I think that's pretty clear. He's always been joyful, highly expressive. 10 out of 10 for enthusiasm. Bearing, 8 out of 10. There was in moments he had extreme frustration, such as the infamous ending of Game 1, 2018 Finals. His on-court emotional deflating can visibly impact team morale. Absolutely, man. We were just talking about that. It's the body language, especially if your team's down on Game 1. That's a critical game, man.
Yeah, it's
And
huge.
and if we saw Carolina in the Stanley Cup Finals. They lost Game 1. The last thing the players want to see is their leader falling down and being victim to the situation. At this point, it needs to be confidence. It's like, hey, okay, hey, we got our asses kicked. Here's what we're going to do next game to make sure that doesn't happen. Boom, boom, boom. Let's get back to work. We got jobs to do. We're professionals. This doesn't impact us one bit. We're going to make a few adjustments and we're going to get back at it. Instead of just letting all your emotions just air out. That's not what a
100%.
leader does. Unselfishness, 10 out of 10. Confidence, 10 out of 10. Knowledge, 10 out of 10. Loyalty, 7 out of 10. I think this is his loyalty to specific franchises or peripheral teammates is temporary. If a roster no longer aligns with a championship standard, he moves on. So, and we've already covered that. We don't need to get too much into that. Endurance, 10 out of 10. Sense of humor, 9 out of 10. Yeah, I think that's pretty straightforward. Okay. So we gone through professionalism. Let's do leading by example. Leading by example, 10 out of 10. LeBron invests over 7 figures annually into his physical maintenance, cold therapy, hyperbaric chambers, and training. By showing up as the hardest worker and most meticulously prepared athlete in the building every single day for over 20 years, he sets an impossible to ignore standard for professionalism. Yeah, I would agree with that.
I would agree.
Accountability. Here's where it hurts him. 7 out of 10. This is a complex area for LeBron. While he takes immense accountability for his physical conditioning and on-court output, his methods for holding others accountable can be exhausting. Rather than the direct internal locker room enforcement, he frequently utilizes outside media pressure or organizational leveraging. He's taken a page out of page out of AJ Brown's book. It's like, I'm not going to address it. I'm going to let the media air this out and create this pressure. Actually, all you're doing is just creating more toxicity in the locker room.
Yeah,
it's going to hurt morale. It's going to hurt culture. Caring for teammates, 9 out of 10. So the final tally. In professionalism, you got a 9.0. And these core pillars, which is leading by example, accountability, caring, 8.7. His total score, 8.9 out of 10. All right. So 8.9. Now, Jerry Rice. Okay, so let's get into it. Now, I will say this much. I saw this podcast where Peyton Manning and Tom Brady were on it, and they were talking about their Mount Rushmore of wide receivers. If I'm not mistaken, Jerry Rice was like number 1 for both of them. And I think anybody you talk to and knows ball, if you're talking about who are the best wide receivers of all time, for the most part, they're usually going to put Jerry Rice as number 1.
I'd say Jerry. Yeah, you put Jerry Rice as 1. I'm like, I shouldn't go blank because I know ball, but I'm like going blank right now because.
So, I want to say, I'm trying to remember who. Peyton had a couple interesting ones, but like, who came up quite a bit with Larry Fitzgerald. would be up there. Um,
Yeah,
and
so that was going to be one of them. I was going to say Jerry Rice, Randy Moss,
Randy Moss.
Larry Fitzgerald.
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
I don't really
Absolutely.
know who a fourth would be for me. I would probably say Calvin Johnson. That's a
I
no-brainer.
was going to say him too. And that's,
Yeah.
that's one of those stories when you look back on sports and you're like, man, what if he was on another team?
Yeah, but I guarantee you evaluate his character. He stayed with the Giants
But
or he stayed with the Lions how many years? He was on the
yeah.
0 and 16 team.
Yep. Which is hard to believe.
Dude,
And Matt Stafford is the quarterback.
you could, yeah, which is crazy to think about. You could take him and put him on any other team in that era, and he's going to the playoff. He could go to a Super Bowl team and start. Like, it doesn't even matter.
Hmm.
And it's just like, and not to go off, that situation is just so sad.
I mean, there's so many stories like that. Don't even get me started on, um, gosh, what is his name? Andrew Luck. Like that is like one of the saddest stories in the NFL. Even to this day, John
Andrew,
Gruden's like that. He had the. If anybody was going to take Brady off his mantle, it would be
it was
Andrew
Andrew
Luck.
Luck. Dude, he was
Yeah,
the guy. He made me
he was the
love
guy.
Stanford. He made me love Stanford.
Sharp as a tack,
Isn't he like,
humble as can
isn't he
be.
like 6'6"?
Oh yeah, he had the perfect
Oh,
build,
man.
just technique, smarts. It was just if you could mold a quarterback, it'd be Andrew Luck. Anyway, but if if there was to be anybody for Andrew Luck to throw to, it'd be Jerry Rice. Let's talk about some of the positives of Jerry Rice. The legendary Hill standard. I'm sure you probably have come across this and heard about this, but his famous off-season workout routine, headlined by his infamous grueling 2.5-mile hill sprints in San Carlos, set a standard of physical conditioning that terrified and inspired the entire NFL. It's almost kind of like, I guess maybe the best way to put this is that is kind of like today's standard, but he was doing it back in a time where necessarily the physical conditioning aspects weren't as prioritized as it is now. I mean, you look at any NFL tape from back in the day compared to nowadays, the caliber of athlete, just the off-season conditioning, the in-season conditioning, there's just so many differences. But, that was kind of ahead of its time. Jerry Rice's preparation, his work ethic. And it wasn't as equally shared as it would be today. Flawless technical precision. Rice didn't rely purely on raw speed. He treated route running like a science. And he wasn't exactly the fastest guy out there. I think that I heard that quite a bit where I think he had a decent 40 time, but for the most part, he wasn't the quickest in the NFL by any
Yeah.
means. But just precise footwork, timing, catching mechanics. He always would create seams and get open for his quarterbacks, and so he had some great quarterbacks. He had Steve Young, comes to mind, right? So yeah, flawless technical precision, extreme longevity and durability. Yeah, hands down. And it's funny how often when we're talking about some of the best leaders of all time, we're talking about longevity because,
Yeah.
hey, you could be a great leader, but you can't lead a damn thing if you're hurt and can't be on the team.
Yeah, exactly.
Just simply stated. Um, playing 20 seasons at wide receiver. Was it more than that? I thought maybe I don't know if that's correct. Was it 20?
20 seasons, yeah, as a
20
wide receiver.
seasons.
Um,
It,
in 2017, he held in that, I have an article pulled up from 2017, but as of 2017, he holds 100 NFL records. 100.
that's insane, man. Um, his daily investment in physical maintenance was the ultimate proof of his professionalism. So we've been, glorifying Jerry here, but let's talk about some of the things he struggled with. Vocal introversion early on. Rice was naturally quiet and deeply introverted. Early in his career, he focused so heavily on his own perfection that he occasionally lacked the vocal unifying presence needed to rally a struggling defensive unit or an emotional locker room. So I think I want to say we talked about this a little bit when we were talking about Kareem, where Kareem was very big on his game and focused a lot on his game, but his introversion, hurt his ability to lead. And so when you're comparing him with other leaders who are more vocal, this is the downside. And just to quickly, and I feel like I've mentioned this a handful of times, but just because you're an introvert doesn't mean that you can't be a great leader. Some of the best leaders that we will cover in the longevity of this podcast are introverts. And I firmly believe, being an introvert myself, I think there's just so much of a mental game going on that you overanalyze, you overthink things. And it tends to make you a better leader because I think you naturally become more humble. And I think that, but nonetheless, you do need to be vocal. Nick Saban said that he would bench players if they're not vocal, specifically the leaders, no matter who they are. They could be the first string linebacker or the first string, outside linebacker, whatever the case. But if you're not making calls and you're not echoing the calls, you're off the field. You have
100%.
got to be vocal. That is a staple to leadership. It's like
100%.
you got to get out there. You have to be able to communicate. And I'm not saying everybody has, because especially when we get to Tim Duncan, you're going to see a guy who's not exactly you would call the stereotypical vocal person, but there is a communication nonetheless. So he would communicate with his hands. He would communicate by things. His
Yeah.
eyes would say a lot. But if you're not doing any communication, there is no vocal presence, and you're just strictly an introvert, you can't lead. You can't fundamentally lead at that point. So, yeah, that is definitely something that's going to hurt his score. Demanding perfectionism. His standard was so uncompromising that he had very little tolerance for teammates who dropped balls, ran lazy routes, or lacked focus in practice.
I can understand running a lazy route.
Okay.
Because there's no fixing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's just you not caring. And that's what it comes down to, right? So I can understand having zero tolerance for that. Dropping a ball, it's like, we've talked about this before, my outlook on that. Like, I don't necessarily know if fear, and like when you do it, like obviously it becomes repetitive and it's like, all right, dude, like you got to be harsh, but like, I think it's all right to make some mistakes here and there in practice. And I mean, really in a game too, like if you can regain what you've done, but obviously that's like in the eyes of the victor. If someone drops a ball and you lose the game, then you can easily turn around and be like, well, it's just all game scenario, right? Like
Yeah. Well, if we're blaming an entire team's performance over one play, then we got a lot more to talk about.
Yeah, right.
For me, when I see this, it's almost kind of like, and this is I'm so glad that they called this out, because this is something we see all the time. And me working with teams, I see this all the time where a lot of young players, immature players, like to think that, oh, well, this leadership presence that I'm required to give out, it means I need to get on my guys. I gotta be hard on them. And it's like, nope, not, nope, because
you see it in the military all the time. I was like that. I thought that's what you're supposed to be, because you grow up.
I remember you brought that up at one point.
They say like, oh, you should be a pit bull team leader, and I just think that's the furthest thing from the truth.
Yep. Yeah, and it's almost kind of, it's fear setting, but also it's like you're not earning respect. If anything, like that guy just can't wait to get away from you. Like he can't. It's almost. Let me just paint the picture how I think it should be run. If you see guys that are, dropping balls, running lazy routes, lack focus, and I like what you said about, it's like there's something to be said about, like, first of all, hey brother, you're down here. This is the standard. So I'm going to be on you until you get up to here. And I don't mean this personally. This is just a respect thing, but you need to respect this team. You need to respect the jersey you're wearing. That performance ain't going to cut it. And guess what? I'm going to run routes with you until we get this done. I think the best way to go about this is leader needs to take ownership is the best way to put it. And it means, hey, guess what? After practice, you're with me, brother, and we're going to run routes. And I'm going to show you, and you're going to match my speed, and you're going to catch balls with me. And it's nothing personal, but I'm here to fix you, and we're going to get you up to that standard. And I'm going to be there with you. I'm going to sacrifice my time to help you. That's what it needs to be, in my opinion. It's not just these little side comments, or just the bad body language because you dropped the pass. Like I get you need to have a high standard. Hey, then take ownership of it. Yep, help him. So that would be my take on that.
Yeah,
Um,
I think like military is different, right? Like there's certain scenarios where you absolutely have to be hard. Like you just got to be like there's a lot for lack of a better term, you just got to be an asshole. There's certain scenarios where that's completely necessary. There might be some people that disagree with that, but like I think for me, it was always in training if you do something that is can be harmful or detrimental to another person on your team. So like flagging your weapon, right? Like that's just it's like that's an easy way to get um scuffed up real quick, if not kicked out of a platoon or a team, right? But on a on an operational basis, like away from training or anything like that, like day to day, like it would drive me nuts when like we would do like these barracks inspections and you had to inspect the barracks like and they had to be clean every day like on a certain time on like a Friday, right? And like I send my guys home at 11 o'clock and barracks inspections start at 1:30. And during that time like go get lunch, make sure your room's spotless. Like look man, I don't agree with it. Like I was a barracks rat for a while. I felt like it was in a way like an invasion of my own privacy, like because I don't go to your house and see if you took out the trash every time because they would like want the trash empty, even if there was one piece of trash in there, like it can't be in there. It's just stupid military mannerisms that they would do. Well, like I also get the game, like this is a game, right? And you have to do it. But like when I would send dudes home and I check their room right before our commander and first sergeant comes in, and like they have done nothing besides sleep, an absolute good time to be a pit. It's just like you're just slapping me in the face,
yeah,
and it's not like I'm not going to do this because I think it's going to earn respect. I'm going to do this because you're going to do that to me. Well, I'm going to do this to you. Like that's how I would view about it. Like, okay, cool. You want to waste my time. You want to take advantage of the time that I had. Cause like 9 out of 10 times when I'm sending you home to do these tasks, I'm picking up the slack for the team that I don't have at the office, right? To get shit done around the office. So if I'm sending my guys home to clean their barracks rooms, who do you think is cleaning the office and the cough? It's the team leaders or the team leaders and squad leaders, right? So I thought that would always drive me nuts, but I think that was like, you know, a time where just it would make me go berserk, dude. But at a young age, when I got older, like I would go berserk and like yell and be like harsh and like, "Oh, you're doing this," and like
yeah,
that's where I'm going. As I like progressed out of that, I'm like, I'm not gonna yell at you, dude. I'm like, I don't. You want to do this? This is what you want to do. That's cool. And it actually got to the point where I was just like, yeah, no, it's fine. I'll stand right here and let the commander and first sergeant walk into this room with the platoon sergeant. And I'm going to look at him and be like, I told him.
that
I'm going to
experience
be
kind of
like,
kicks in.
yeah,
Yeah,
I told him to do this. I brought this up to you last time it happened. I told you this is what he does.
yeah,
This is my recommendation for punishment. And then that's where I got to. I'm like, I don't give a shit. I'm not going to make you do push ups. I'm just going to waste your time adminly, not to go
yeah,
down not to go down a rant, but I think there's a time and place for everything, and it's very scenario based. I've always thought that,
absolutely.
because going back to the Jerry Rice thing, and I want to make this point, it's like I talk about a guy dropping a ball, and I'm like that. Sometimes you gotta let dudes make mistakes, right? It's all right. It happens to everyone. What would frustrate me is a dude that drops the ball that's also lazy on route running. That would make me, you're right. Like if I'm Jerry Rice, I'm like, nah, dude, there's no composure. I'm like, I would
Yeah,
in front of everyone, like, yeah, well, you probably dropped the ball because you ran the route half-assed. So
and I would say there's a couple things I want to bring up on that point. It's and this is very important too. if Jerry Rice is out there running lazy routes and dropping balls, then he shouldn't say a damn thing.
Shouldn't say a thing.
This is where leading by example comes in handy, because if Jerry's performing and he is exemplifying the standard, then I'd say he has the capital to say that. And that's a judgment call, but I think that will not fall on deaf ears is if he's saying that he's put in the work. One of the things I wanted to bring up on that we are just hitting on is because I've been doing a lot of studying of like old studies on Nick Saban, and one of the things that they focused on, because he was in this podcast, and I can't think of the name of it, but it's funny because when I was talking to this football team about him, this Coach Firth, he saw the same video. He saw the same, and he was hitting on these points, and I'm like, I know what video you saw. I saw the same exact one. And one of the points that he made was that, hey, listen, first of all, if I'm going to call somebody out in practice, it's usually because you can take it. And I know you can take it. And I love to pick on especially the projected All-Americans and stuff like that, because it's like I want to set this standard that nobody is not under the microscope here. And I demand perfection. So when I'm calling you out, it is not just about you. It's about everybody else that's listening too. And if I was a stickler for discipline, because you're mentioning, like the little things, right? The trash. Saban was big on discipline, and one of the things he used to hate was guys having their shirt tails out. And I remember one of the guys even chimed into his conversation, was like, "Yeah, coach used to give me a hard time about that. What was the deal? Why would you say that all the time?" He goes, "Well, if I can't count on you to tuck in your shirt tail, how am I going to count on you to cover that wide receiver on Saturday?" It's the little things.
Yeah, it's just the little things,
It's the little things. And there's a method to everything. Some of the best coaches, the best leaders, there's a method to everything that they do. So I just want to kind of to cap on that too. Just, but again, it is a judgment call. You better have earned that respect before you start making those calls. And I think when you got a caliber like Saban or a caliber like Rice, you can say those things. But nonetheless, what was cool about what Saban said is that after he chewed somebody out, the next day he called him into his office to talk to him. He's like, "Hey, I just want you to know something. We run a tight ship. We got a high standard here at Alabama. Please know I'm not just talking to you. I'm talking to everybody. And I know I'm only giving you this because I know you can take it." And he knows the players who can take it or not. And that's another clear sign. He knows the players. He's gotten to know them. So he knows who's extra sensitive, who's not. So anyway, let's get back into this, because I know we could talk. If I start talking about Saban, I won't be able to stop talking.
On that.
So let's talk about his professionalism scoreboard here. Justice, 9 out of 10. Rice believed that the football field was a pure meritocracy. He expected rookies, highly paid free agents, and superstars to match his exact level of focus during practice drills, completely rejecting any special treatment for seniority. I like that. Honestly. And it's the expectations. It's like, there's a standard I'm here trying to achieve, and I expect everybody to be there as well. So I get that. As long as it's equal treatment, it sounds like it was. It's not just the rookies. It's also the free agents that are coming over. Hey, I don't care how you did it over there at Oakland. This is how we do it here in San Francisco.
Yep.
We're a championship caliber team. This is how we need to perform. So I get that. Judgment, 9 out of 10. Dependability, 10 out of 10. The absolute gold standard of the NFL. Famously missed only 17 games in a 20-year career. Most just because it was a single ACL injury in 1997. Came back from that and continued to dominate. In the biggest postseason moments, his quarterbacks knew exactly where he would be on every single third down. Initiative, 10 out of 10. Rice didn't wait for coaches to push him. He would show up to training camp in better shape than anyone else in the league. He proactively initiated extra route running sessions after formal practices concluded, dragging younger receivers along with him. I love that, man. And that's what we were talking about. Listen, you're not at the standard, and I want to help you get there. So I'm going to put in my time. That's the leader taking ownership of a problem, bringing these young guys up to speed. It's not just going up to these guys saying, you need to be faster. you need to catch more of these passes. You need to work on your footwork. It's, I'm going to work with you. I'm going to sacrifice my time and I'm going to help you get better. This extends beyond the football field. This goes for any single team, whether it's in the professional sector, any sport. It's, you want to be a good leader? Don't just call out, when somebody's failing. Help them. Take ownership of them. Sacrifice your time. You could be spending time with your family, but no, I'm going to spend my time with you. And together, we're going to help you get better because I don't want this to happen anymore. I want to bring you up to the level that I expect everybody to be at. Decisiveness, 10 out of 10. Tact, similar to LeBron, 7 out of 10. Rice was not aggressively abrasive like Jordan. And we already talked about that a few podcasts ago. But he was direct. He would scream or berate a teammate publicly. Or I'm sorry, let me rephrase. He wouldn't scream or berate a team publicly, but he would let a quarterback or a fellow receiver know immediately if a route or a throw was substandard, expecting professional accountability. Not too bad. He's not airing it out to the press. Arguably, there was no social media back then.
Yeah.
So, would he have?
I don't think he would have. Just understanding Jerry Rice's background and like how he grew up, where I don't think he would have. I just think it's hard to believe. Like, you see these dudes that play 20 years, and you could argue that it was like majority of his years were the roughest times to play in the NFL. Like, all these penalties and rules that we have now, like that didn't exist, dude. Like, I don't know when they started testing for steroids, but I would probably imagine it was after 1985, right? Like, so I just think at that point in time, it was like, it's still a gladiator sport, but I think it was like truly like they embodied that as a culture too. Like, we're not talking to the press. We're focusing on winning a championship. And honestly, I would take that professional accountability one-on-one than someone going to talk to like AJ Brown going to talk to the press. I'll take that in my locker room any day of the week.
Yep.
Because
honestly,
yeah.
Yep. And again, you're going right to the source. Hey, you got a problem? Go talk to him about it. Hey, man, here, I'm getting this pass over here. Can we work on some routes after practice? Like, so we can get seamless. And just because, like, I think it's like, I'm getting it over here. I should be getting it over here. And again, I'm not a receiver, so I have no idea. But I'm just saying, like, bottom line is, you're not going to some third party. You're not complaining to the coach. You're going to the player. And you're going, and with that respect, and again, I don't, where they're drawing this content from and what time frame, I don't know. But arguably, he's got a name for himself at this point. Like, so
Yeah.
Whoever the quarterback is, you're going to listen because he's earned that capital to say that. And I love it. Personally, but again, I would think good leadership move here is, how can you take ownership of that? Like, it's like, hey, let's work on this together. That would be the recipe there. Integrity, 10 out of 10. Uncompromised. Rice treated the game of football with a monastic reverence. He never cheated his training, never took shortcuts on his diet or recovery, carried himself with an honest, humble dedication to excellence that earned him universal league respect. Enthusiasm, 9 out of 10. He didn't just love scoring touchdowns on Sundays. He genuinely loved the grind of Tuesday practices, film study, and weight room sessions. Bearing, 10 out of 10. Immaculate. Rice was famously meticulous about his appearance, adhering to the philosophy of look good, feel good, play good. I've heard that before, and I remember somebody saying that was a Jerry Rice thing. So I love that mentality. You look good, you're gonna play good. Simply said. Unselfishness, 8 out of 10. While he possessed the natural hunger for the ball inherent to all legendary wide receivers, Rice was an elite, ferocious blocker in the run game. That is huge, man.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Man. That's what I'm saying, dude. That's why I say, like, it's a different era of football. You don't see that.
And just a quick reference, because I know we need to wrap things up. You look at how Devontae Smith blocks versus AJ Brown blocked.
Dude, it's just like, I was gonna bring it up, man, but like
night and day.
Because like I can go on a rant, but like Devontae Smith is like 170 pounds.
Yeah,
soaking wet.
And I've heard he's put on some weight in the offseason, some good weight.
And he's
So that'll
like,
be interesting to see.
AJ Brown. You would think. Could you imagine if that guy just like gave a shit?
I mean, honestly, he's size, and this is a bad comparison because it's hard to compare anybody to Megatron, but he had more of a Megatron build. He's thick
He was
receiver,
huge.
huge, yeah. So I mean, it's like, yeah, if you just put in the effort, who knows where some of these runs that Saquon could have broken. It's hard to make that
Yeah.
comparison, but I'm just saying the unselfishness. So it's like, even though you're not getting the ball, make a play happen. This
Yep.
this goes to the point of you're serving the team. You're helping the team in any way that you
And
possibly
you're
can.
also like believing in the staff that has coached you.
That's right. That's
Like
right.
I think that's also a lost art is like there are things that you can't see that they can see, especially in 2026. How many guys do we have running data, like doing data analytics of like probability statistics? Like, should we go for it on this down? How many guys do you have in a press box that are part of the defensive staff, the offensive staff? Like, there is so much to where it's just like, dude, just shut up.
Yeah.
Just, and sometimes like you'll have in Philly this past year, I do believe that a big part of the issue was the offensive coordinating and the play calling. And I think that's fair. And you can see it by like, some of the data we talked about at the end of the season with like the route running. Um, but I think more often than not, a lot of these players think they're just bigger than the staff. That's what it comes down to, man.
Yeah.
And it's just like on a 3rd and 7 or a 3rd and 5, it's like, well, why am I running this route? Why I should be running this route? I'm going to get the first down. Where it's like, dude, the play we're calling could set up something for 3 plays down the road. You know what I mean? It's just like it's bigger than just like right now. It's a strategy game, man.
It's like I want all young players to acknowledge the fact that yes, we know you want the ball, but the coach has the strategic picture. The offensive coordinator has the strategic picture. He's seeing things that you don't see because you're in the weeds. You're in the action. So give it to the person who's in a better position to make the call, and that's the coach in that case. Trust in the coach, trust the process, like you were saying, and listen. Even if the ball's not going to you in this one, help make the play because this is about the team winning. If the team wins, you're going to definitely get more exposure. That will come. And for young players looking up, it's like you're a receiver, go out there and lay a hit on somebody. Make a nice block because those are the things coaches are looking for. It's like,
Yep.
hey, great. All these guys can catch the ball. That's awesome. You want to play the D1 level? Show me how well you block. Pancake some dude out there. Let me see you getting out ahead of the running back and making a play. Like that to me is like that unselfishness. That I want a football player. I don't want a diva. I want a football player. Confidence, 10 out of 10. Knowledge, 10 out of 10. Loyalty, 9 out of 10. Deeply loyal to the 49ers organization. As you mentioned, he had 15 years with the 49ers. Even when he later transitioned to the Raiders and the Seahawks. At the end of his career, he maintained a highly professional, respectful, and dedicated relationship with his clubs. Endurance, 10 out of 10. Sense of humor, 7 out of 10, one of his lower scores. While highly serious and locked in during training and games, Rice possessed a warm, engaging personality and relaxed team environments. He wasn't a locker room clown, but his dry wit helped diffuse the pressure of an intense dynasty. I think this speaks to a lot of his introversion. Seemed like he's all business. I guess maybe a good way to describe Jerry Rice. I'm assuming outside the playing field and on the playing field. Just I'm here to win. I'm here for the business. But nonetheless, you can't be a stiff, man. I think that's what separates, leaders and good leaders from, just mediocre leaders. It's like you got to have a sense of humor. We talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
When we're talking on the Ray episode, it's like, what I love that he said one point is like, most of the time we weren't even talking about the mission or the next objective. It's like we were just there shooting the shit, just talking about players' families, my teammates' families. We're talking about what their goals are, things in that, and just talking about movies and just
Yeah.
movie references. It's like you gotta keep it light. You gotta be, in that sense, you gotta strive to be likable. And you can't be a robot. You can't be business all the time because you want to get influence. You got to be well rounded. You got to have that aspect to you, and especially when you guys are losing and going through a lull. That sense of humor can really bind guys. So I think that's really important, not something to overshadow. Leading by example, easy 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Just everything from his appearance to his performance on the field to his work ethic and preparation for the game day. That's a definition of leading by examples is Jerry Rice. Accountability, 9 out of 10. Rice held his unit accountable through the sheer gravity of his output. If a young wide receiver showed up to practice tired or ran lazy routes, this is kind of hitting on that point again.
Yeah.
Standing next to a pristine, flawlessly executing Jerry Rice made their lack of preparation painfully obvious. His work ethic acted as an automatic, silent filter for accountability. So he would hold his teammates accountable. He would call them right out. He would just say it. Sound like he wasn't, as psychologically with ulterior motives or like he wasn't this psychological leader like Jordan was, where he would put them down to get an effect out of them. He would just say, "Hey man, like they ain't gonna cut it." Like he was just Mr. Standard all the time. And on top of that, it was his performance that actually led to accountability. That's interesting. Caring for teammates, 8 out of 10. Rice cared about his teammates by ensuring they were prepared to survive and win at the highest level. He took young receivers under his wing that we talked about, invited them to run the hill with him, and taught them like the microscopic details of taking care of their bodies. While he wasn't an overly vocal, emotional counselor like we talked about, his investment in their professional longevity was immense. So, the final tally, 9.1 out of 10, which takes him over LeBron in this battle.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's there's a lot going into this, and I'd argue that what pushed him over the edge was the longevity and the loyalty to the organization. I
would
think the
say
fact
so.
that he went to them, he went to the source for confrontation. He didn't go to the media. I think that's
Yeah.
what hurts a lot of athletes. That's what, honestly, that's why AJ Brown has a bad rap right now.
That's why he's not in Philly.
Yeah. So that is important. And from the leadership aspect, Jerry Rice represents the pinnacle of craftsman-based leadership. True leadership doesn't require loud locker room speeches, political maneuvering, or high empathy emotional cheerleading. By combining flawless technical knowledge and unparalleled physical endurance and a legendary lead by example work ethic, Rice became the human blueprint for excellence that pulled an entire football franchise along with him to greatness. So, Jerry Rice moves on, and he will be taking on the winner of Tom Brady and Dirk Nowitzki in the next matchup. Interesting journey here,
That one's gonna be tough too. The Tom Brady and Dirk Nowitzki. That's gonna be hard.
Yep. So we will cover that more on that next time. If you guys stuck around to listen up to this point, just want to say thank you. I know we're an hour and a half into this. This is definitely a long one, but
Yeah.
we hope this is helpful. And just to kind of cap back on what we talked about in the very beginning, we do really appreciate the feedback. At the end of the day, this is a show, just like we talked about with the NFL. We want to make this for you guys, you the listeners. So thank you for listening. If you have feedback, how we can make this better, we're as humble as we can possibly be. Let us know, and we'll definitely do that. If we need to add more humor into it, whatever we need to do, just let us know. But hope you enjoyed this, and stay tuned for more as next week we speak to the Tom Brady Dirk Nowitzki matchup. In the meantime, enjoy yourselves, and we'll see you next time.